Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're unpacking an industry that's, well, foundational, often overlooked, but it's literally holding our world together.
It really is.
Think about the roads you drive on, buildings, bridges.
Yeah.
They all rely on something most people never consider.
Concrete and making sure it's sound.
Exactly. And the stability, the precision needed, it's crucial. It's not just about big structures. It's this unseen layer ensuring safety and durability. So today we're diving into the global concrete tester market. We're using a really comprehensive report that maps out the growth from 2021 all the way out to 2033. Our mission here is simple. Cut through the data, pull out the key nuggets, the growth figures, regional insights, and what this quiet but essential market tells us about where global development is heading.
Yeah, and it's fascinating because this market is like a window into global infrastructure trends. When we talk concrete testers, it's not just one gadget. It's a whole range of tools, simple things like rebound hammers for surface hardness, all the way to sophisticated ultrasonic kit, ground penetrating radar. These things check internal integrity, find hidden flaws, rebar. They're basically the unseen guardians, making sure our built world is safe, up to code, and importantly, resilient.
That's a great point about the actual tools, because concrete tester might sound a bit abstract maybe, but it boils down to quality control. Critical quality control for construction everywhere. And when you see the numbers, well, you realize just how big this quiet industry actually is.
Okay. Yeah.
But let's unpack this. The global figures are pretty impressive. So kicking off with the big picture, in 2021, the global market, it registered sales revenue of $2,236.1 million.
Right. 2.2 billion, basically. And that's just the starting line. The report shows a really clear, consistent upward trend. We're looking at growth to about $2,626 million by 2025. And then it really picks up steam, surging to $3,621.6 million by 2033.
Okay, wow.
Yeah, and if you average that out, it's a compound annual growth rate, a CGR of 4.1% over that whole period. What's interesting there is, for a foundational industry like this, 4.1% annually isn't just, ticking along. It signals real, persistent global investment in structural integrity, long-term development.
So connecting that to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
what does this sustained growth, this 4.1%, really tell us? Is it just more buildings going up? Or are there maybe deeper trends pushing for more testing?
It's definitely more than just volume. I mean, yes, new projects are a huge driver. Think about rapid urbanization, especially in emerging economies or big public works programs. But another big factor is increasing regulatory oversight. Governments, engineers, they're demanding higher standards, safety, durability.
It makes sense.
Which means more testing, more sophisticated testing, too, throughout a project's life. From the start, right through to post-construction checks. It's about building smarter, safer, not just bigger.
Okay, now here's where it gets really interesting, I think, as we start breaking down these global numbers by region. Let's start with North America.
Right, North America holds a pretty substantial slice of this market. Back in 2021, the revenue there was $893.1 million overall, and that's projected to grow to nearly $1.4 billion. 1,366.79 million, to be precise, by 2033. That's a steady CAGR of about 3.6%.
And when we drill down into the countries within North America, we see some fascinating differences. The U.S., a mature market, was at 576.764 million in 2021, projected to hit 840.304 million in 2033. That's a CAGR of 3.176%. Canada's a bit stronger. Forecasted to grow from $214.344 million to $347.165 million. So an NGR of just over 4%, 4.86%. And then look at Mexico. It's really showing dynamic growth, rising from about $102 million in 2021 to $179.323 million by 2033. That reflects a KGR of almost 5%, 4.86%.
Yeah, those varying growth rates within North America are quite telling, aren't they? Mexico's significantly higher CAGR, nearly 5%. It really suggests a major push in infrastructure development. Construction activity is booming there.
What could be driving that specifically?
Well, it could be several things. Maybe increased foreign investment, ongoing urbanization, or perhaps specific national development plans that are just fueling new projects. And more projects mean more testing. Meanwhile, the more mature markets like the US and Canada, they're steady, slightly slower growth. It probably reflects a mix. New construction, yes, but also a big focus on maintaining and upgrading existing infrastructure. That needs ongoing testing, too.
Okay, that makes sense. Let's shift focus now across the Atlantic to Europe, a continent with, very diverse economies, different stages of infrastructure development.
Exactly. Europe's total market revenue, it stood at $619.401 million in 2021, and the anticipation is it'll reach $963.346 million by 2033. It's So that gives it a CEGR of 3.763%. Solid, consistent growth overall, but yeah, with some really interesting regional variations inside Europe.
Definitely. Looking at some key countries, we see really robust growth in places like the UK. It started at about $117 million in 2021, expected to hit $205 million by 2033. Strong CAGR, 4.78%. Germany, too, climbing steadily. From $101.5 million to nearly $170 million, its KGR is 4.368%. And France sees a healthy rise as well, from about $76 million to $121 million. That's a 3.97% KGR. So it seems these big economies are really investing.
Absolutely. And it's interesting when you contrast these with some other parts of Europe showing, well, lower growth. Italy, for example, has a more modest trajectory, a 2.64% THR, going from about $46.5 million to $63.5 million. Russia also shows slower growth, around 3.11%, and Spain is even lower, interestingly, at 2.346% TGR.
Any thoughts on why such a difference?
Well, it's likely a reflection of different investment cycles, maybe different economic priorities right now. The larger economies seem to be pushing ahead strongly. Also, places like Denmark, Switzerland, Luxembourg, they're generally in that 1.8% to 2.7% range. For highly developed nations, that could imply their focus is more on maintenance, maybe, rather than huge, expansive new construction waves.
That's a good point. And one interesting detail here, the report mentions the rest of Europe segment. That actually shows a pretty robust 4.134% CAGR, growing from $83 million to over $136 million by 2033, which suggests that, collective growth across maybe smaller markets or perhaps EU-funded projects spanning multiple countries, it really adds up.
That's a great observation. It shows the activity is widespread.
Okay, now let's turn to the Asia-Pacific region. This area really seems to have strong momentum. You could almost call it the global growth engine for this market.
Spot on. That's exactly right. The overall APAC market is projected to grow from about $451.7 million in 2021 all the way up to $840.2 million by 2033. That's an impressive CGR of 5.28%. This region really does stand out, both for the scale and the sheer pace of development.
And leading that charge is China. It's projected to more than double its market size, growing from roughly $157 million to $321 million. That's a huge 6.026% CAGR. But then there's India. The report highlights its remarkable growth, surging from $46.2 million to over $105 million. That's an exceptional KGR of 7.093%. And South Korea also strong, over 5% CAGR. India's growth, though, nearly 7.1%. It's just kind of mind-boggling for an established testing industry.
It really is. And if you connect this back to the bigger picture, this rapid expansion in China, and especially India, it just profoundly underscores the scale of what's happening there. Urbanization, massive infrastructure projects, think new cities, high-speed rail, huge housing developments. They're building at an incredible pace.
And needing to test it all rigorously.
Exactly. It's not just about building quickly. It seems there's a focus on building to last, which demands more and more sophisticated concrete testing. We also see steady growth in Japan, around 3.6% CAGR, which kind of aligns with its focus on maintaining its already highly developed infrastructure. And then other notable players like Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, with Singapore and Taiwan both exceeding 4% CAGR themselves. So significant activity across the board in APAC.
Okay, great overview of APAC. Now, moving on to other key emerging markets, let's look at South America, the Middle East, and Africa. We're seeing pockets of really significant growth there too, right?
Yes, absolutely. In South America, the overall market is growing from about $104 million in 2021 to $175 million by 2033. That's a healthy 4.455% CAGR overall. Brazil, being the largest economy, contributes a lot. It's projected to reach nearly $80 million by 2033 with a 4.255% CAGR. But it's Colombia that really stands out among the others, like Argentina, Peru, Chile. Colombia shows a very strong 6.149% CAGR. That might hint at major public works, maybe resource-related infrastructure projects driving demand there.
Interesting. What about the Middle East? We hear a lot about mega projects there.
Definitely reflected in the numbers. The region progresses from about $98 million in 2021 to $170 million in 2033. That's a 4.667% CAGR. And yeah, it's clearly driven by those ambitious development visions, especially in the Gulf states. Saudi Arabia leads with a 5.1 over 7% CAGR, expected to reach $66 million. And the UAE is also strong, achieving a 4.886% CAGR. It aligns perfectly with their huge projects, diversification efforts, building new cities, economic zones. Turkey, Egypt, Qatar are also significant contributors.
And finally, Africa.
In Africa, we see an increase from roughly $70 million in 2021 to about $106 million by 2033. The CAGR there is 3.325%. Now, while it's a lower overall rate compared to, say, APAC, it still represents significant development across a huge continent. Nigeria and South Africa are the major players. South Africa is projected to reach over $41 million by 2033. This growth reflects an ongoing urbanization and really essential infrastructure upgrades happening across many African nations.
So it's really clear then. These pockets of significant growth are spread across literally every continent. It underlines that infrastructure development, and therefore the need for this kind of precise testing. It's truly a global thing, not just confined to a few mega economies.
Okay, so to briefly recap our deep dive here, the global concrete tester market isn't just steadily expanding, it's, well, robustly growing, driven by this fundamental and increasingly complex need for durable, efficient testing solutions. All over the world, it really speaks to our collective commitment to building safely, building things that last.
Absolutely. And looking ahead, it seems abundantly clear that Asia-Pacific, with its, incredible pace of urbanization and infrastructure build-out, along with those key emerging economies we touched on in South America and the Middle East, they're really expected to spearhead this growth in the coming decade, which raises an important question for you, our listener.
Yeah, considering this steady, robust, and really widespread growth in a market that's so foundational, maybe even unseen, like concrete testing, what does it really tell you about the future? About global development, our investment in resilient cities, our commitment to structural safety? What massive structures are being built or reinforced right now, maybe in places you wouldn't even think of, that require this level of unseen precision to stand strong for generations to come? We'll leave you with that thought. Thanks so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Okay, imagine the buildings you live and work in every day, or the bridges you drive over. How do you actually know they're safe? Today we're diving into a topic that, it might sound a bit niche at first, the concrete tester market, but stick with us, because it underpins the safety of pretty much our entire built world. We're looking at the fascinating landscape of concrete testing, the innovations shaping it, all based on the sources you've shared. Our mission here is to pull out the really important insights and maybe even a few surprising facts.
It's true, and it's fascinating because this field is absolutely foundational to, well, modern society. It really does go far beyond just cement and rebar. We're talking about the structural integrity that literally holds our infrastructure together, holds everything up. This exploration hopefully will help you grasp not just the tools, the gadgets, but why they hold such immense importance in our daily lives.
Right. So is this foundational integrity is so critical? What forces are really shaping this market's direction right now? Our sources are pointing pretty clearly to one thing, a heightened focus on structural safety and quality, overall quality. We're seeing governments, regulatory bodies, all around the globe enforcing much stricter standards. So what does this heightened scrutiny actually mean for the industry in practice?
Well, it immediately translates into a really undeniable urgent demand for advanced testing equipment. And this isn't just about ticking boxes on a form, it's actively spurring, a new wave of competition, innovation, pushing the boundaries of material science. Think about it, whether it's residential housing, massive highway projects, the global boom in construction means a constant need for reliable ways to check material strength, consistency, at every single stage of a project. These advanced tools, they are now absolutely critical for compliance, stability, and importantly, long-term safety, especially when you think about the potential costs if things go wrong.
Yeah, the cost of failure is huge. And speaking of efficiency, making sure things don't fail, one of the really innovative ways these standards are being met is through something called non-destructive testing, NDT. Okay, sounds highly technical, I know, but it's truly transformative. Imagine being able to assess the strength, the health of concrete without drilling a single sample out, without causing any damage. We're talking techniques like ultrasonic pulse velocity, where you're basically listening to sound waves moving through the concrete.
Listening for hidden flaws.
Exactly. Or rebound hammer testing, which measures surface hardness by how far a little plunger bounces back. So why is this shift to NDT so, revolutionary for the industry?
Right. It's a game changer. Mostly because of the efficiency and, crucially, the ability to preserve existing structures. You don't have to damage them to test them. These in situ methods testing right there on the structure itself, no sample removal needed, they are completely transforming how we ensure structural integrity. And what's truly revolutionary about NDT, it isn't just that it saves time and resources, which it does. It actually allows for things like continuous monitoring, predictive maintenance.
Predictive maintenance, so seeing problems before they happen.
Precisely. It means engineers can shift from just reacting to problems, doing repairs after something breaks, to a proactive, ongoing health check of structures, predicting potential failures way before they become critical. And that, well, that has massive implications for safety and, of course, cost.
Huge implications.
Right.
Okay, so beyond NDT, the materials you sent over show a clear acceleration towards digital and wireless tech. We're seeing modern concrete testers now with Bluetooth, cloud integration, even app connectivity. So for someone actually out there on a busy job site, what does this all practically mean for their day-to-day work?
Yeah, the real power here is how these technologies simplify collecting data, sharing data. It's all about the data flow. Imagine like a project manager getting real-time data, instant results across multiple teams, wherever they happen to be, on-site, off-site.
I just did lean.
Pretty much instantly. It drastically enhances efficiency. And it's not just about connectivity either. Manufacturers are also developing these really compact, multifunctional tools. Tools that can measure compressive strength, moisture levels, temperature, maybe other things, all in one go.
All in one device.
All in one. That kind of integration makes the whole testing process much more streamlined and, frankly, less prone to human error.
That makes sense. And something I found quite surprising. It's not solely about new construction. Your sources highlight a growing reliance on these testers for retrofitting and rehabilitation projects, especially in places like North America and Europe. Why is that specific application becoming so important right now?
That's a really vital point. If you connect it to the bigger picture, many parts of the world, particularly North America and Europe, are grappling with aging infrastructure. Stuff built decades ago. Bridges, buildings, roads. They all need constant assessment, maintenance, and often reinforcement. They need upgrades. So these testing devices are proving indispensable for figuring out how to extend the lifespan of these older structures safely. And this isn't just about, keeping things looking nice. It's crucial for public safety and also for the economic sustainability of our cities. You want to avoid catastrophic failures, obviously, but also extend the usefulness of those massive investments made years ago.
Right, extending the life of what we already have. Makes perfect sense. But of course, it can't all be smooth sailing. No market journey is entirely easy. Even with all this innovation and demand, the concrete tester market definitely faces its own hurdles. Your sources pointed out some key restraints. What are those main obstacles holding things back a bit?
Yeah, despite the growth, there are indeed some significant barriers. Three main ones, really. First, the price tag. This advanced gear, especially the stuff with all the digital bells and whistles, it can be quite expensive.
The cost factor.
Exactly. That creates a real gap. It definitely limits access for, say, smaller contractors. And it's not just the initial cost. It actually makes it harder for those smaller firms to even bid on complex projects that require this cutting-edge testing, which, could potentially stifle local innovation or even access to crucial safety upgrades in communities that might really need them.
That's a ripple effect I hadn't considered. What else?
Secondly, there's a, surprising lack of global standardization. This means you have different testing protocols, different rules across different countries, which really complicates things if you're trying to use equipment internationally or if you're a manufacturer trying to sell globally, creates trade barriers.
Okay, standardization. And the third?
And finally, a really critical issue that comes up again and again, the shortage of skilled technicians. Operating these high-tech tools effectively, interpreting the data correctly, it requires specialized training. And without enough properly trained people, you run the risk of inconsistent results, maybe even missed safety benchmarks.
Which kind of undermines the whole point of the technology in the first place.
Exactly. It undermines the very purpose.
Okay. So as we start to wrap up this deep dive, it's pretty clear that the concrete tester market, it's technical, but it's a remarkably vibrant space, fundamentally driven by this ever-increasing focus on safety, fueled by global construction, pushed forward by innovation, even while it's navigating some pretty significant challenges.
Yeah, what really stands out to me is how, as our cities keep growing and also aging at the same time, this unseen work, ensuring structural integrity, it just becomes even more vital.
Yeah.
And more complex, which maybe leaves us with an interesting question for you, the listener, to ponder. As the technology in this space gets more and more sophisticated, How will we balance that advanced tech with the absolutely essential human skill needed to actually use it effectively? How will that balance shape the future of safety in our built world?
A really important question to think about. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the, well, fascinating world of concrete testing, those forces shaping our everyday safety. We hope you feel a little more well-informed now, and maybe, just maybe, a lot more curious about the unseen guardians beneath our feet.